A couple from the UK was renovating their 300-year-old home in 2019 when they discovered something amazing under their kitchen floor. It was a cup filled with 264 rare coins, some dating back as early as 1610. The collection's expected to sell for around $300K at auction next month. In Hocus Pocus, Sarah Jessica Parker played a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials. Years later, the actress found out that her 10th great-grandmother was actually accused of witchcraft in Salem 1692. Sodium nitrate is the secret ingredient that will turn any cheese into a creamy nacho cheese sauce. By pure coincidence, sodium nitrate's chemical formula spells out the word nacho. The Secret Service agent who saved Ronald Reagan's life was inspired to become an agent after watching The Secret Service, a 1939 film starring Ronald Reagan as a Secret Service agent. In the only novel that Edgar Allan Poe ever wrote, 4 crewmen get lost at sea and end up eating the cabin boy named Richard Parker. In real life, 46 years later, an English yacht sank and the remaining 4 crewmen resorted to eating the cabin boy to survive. That boy's name was Richard Parker. A Bosnian couple began cheating on each other when they both started talking to another person online. When both groups decided to meet in person, the couple realized they'd been cheating on each other with each other. A family photo under the northern lights became a 1 in a million shot when they also captured a shooting star in the background. Ancient ruler Mithridates was so paranoid of being poisoned that he routinely drank toxins throughout his life to build up his immunity. When he was finally captured by the Romans, he tried to kill himself with poison but failed because he was completely immune. In the 1990s, FBI agent Robert Hansen was assigned the task of finding a double agent within the FBI. It was later discovered that Hansen was the mole they were looking for and had been working with the KGB since 1979, in what was quite possibly the worst intelligence disaster in US history. He's now serving out 15 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Oscar the Cat served on 3 World War II battleships, 1 German and 2 British. All 3 ships were sunken during battles, but the Cat miraculously survived each time by floating on wooden planks. He was later nicknamed Unsinkable Sam. Former NFL player Delon McCullough was adopted in 1973 and reunited with his birth mother in 2017. She then revealed the name of his father, who turned out to be his coach and mentor throughout his life without either of them having any idea they were related. In 2013, a New York family bought a $3 bowl at a garage sale and displayed it on their mantle for years. They eventually decided to get it checked out, and it ended up being a 1,000-year-old Chinese ding bowl worth $2.2 million. The only other bowl of its kind in the world had been in the British Museum for over 60 years. In 1994, a crime watch in Homestead, Florida was holding its first meeting outside. As the police chief was explaining what to look out for, a 75-pound bag of coke fell from the sky and landed right near the group. It was ejected by a smuggler who had been flying overhead. In 1963, a man from Turkey knocked down a wall in his home while making some renovations. Behind the wall, he found a cave-like room that led to a tunnel system with more ancient rooms. He had discovered the ancient underground city of Derinkuyu. In 2019, an Australian man was walking his dog named Lucky when he accidentally kicked something hard that looked like dog poop. Upon picking it up, he quickly realized it was actually a gold nugget worth around $35,000. In 1836, the original patent for the fire hydrant was destroyed in a fire when the U.S. Patent Office burned to the ground. Thus, the true inventor of the fire hydrant remains a mystery. Alexander I of Yugoslavia refused to make a public appearance on a Tuesday after 3 of his family members died on a Tuesday. After finally being forced to appear on a Tuesday, he was promptly assassinated. In 1949, 12-year-old Charles Cohen hid inside of a closet while a mass murderer shot and killed his entire family. Nearly 70 years later, his granddaughter would survive the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting by hiding in a closet. In 2014, a scrap metal dealer from California bought a golden egg for $14,000 at a yard sale, hoping he could flip it for a quick profit. But after finding out the metal was worth less than he'd hoped for, he decided to take it to an antiques expert instead. It turned out to be an extremely rare Fabergé egg that once belonged to the Emperor of Russia, worth an estimated $33 million. In 2015, 2 Spanish conmen sold a fake painting for 1.5 million euros, only to find out that the money was counterfeit. This egg that was laid naturally by a chicken looks exactly like a Kinder Surprise egg. In 1991, a woman from Thailand accidentally slipped in mud, grabbed a live wire, and was electrocuted to death. Later that day, when her sister was showing the neighbors how the accident happened, she slipped, grabbed the same live wire, and died. In 1987, a British woman purchased a ring from a flea market for $5, thinking it was simply a nice-looking artificial stone. But 33 years later, she discovered that it was actually a genuine 26-carat diamond ring worth $960,000. During the Crimean War over 160 years ago, a French and Russian soldier fired at each other and their bullets miraculously collided. The series Breaking Bad has 62 episodes in total. The 62nd element on the periodic table is samarium, a substance typically used to treat lung cancer. One of the most renowned vasectomy doctors in all of Texas is named Dr. Dick Chop. Packers fan Jim Becker regularly donated blood in order to afford tickets for games. Years later, he found out that he had a potentially deadly disease that could only be prevented through giving blood. So without even knowing it, he was saving his own life by donating blood the entire time. Michael Jackson had a meeting scheduled at the top of one of the Twin Towers on 9/11, but he was up until 3 the night before chatting with his mom on the phone, and he ended up sleeping through the appointment. Mohammed Bashir from Dubai bought a lottery ticket just before boarding an Emirates flight that crashed, but the man survived and proceeded to win $1 million from the ticket. Perfect solar eclipses are only possible thanks to an insane coincidence. The sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but also 400 times farther from Earth, making them appear exactly the same size in the sky. A British Marine had the motto "You'll never walk alone" tattooed on his leg before part of it was amputated in Afghanistan. As a result, some of his tattoo got cut off and now reads "You'll never walk." Lauren Kreitzer was broke, depressed, and disabled after losing his leg in a car accident in 2007. But one day he saw a blanket valued at $500,000 on Antiques Roadshow and realized he had the exact same blanket. It was a Navajo blanket from the 1800s that he ended up selling for $1.5 million and quickly turned his life around. During World War I, a 17-year-old British soldier's life was saved when his pocket Bible stopped a bullet. The book has been passed down through his family and still has the bullet embedded inside. In 1977, the University of Evansville men's basketball team was involved in a tragic plane crash. The crash killed everyone on the team except for one player who didn't make the trip due to an illness. 2 weeks later, that player was killed in a car crash. In the year 2000, Rick Norsegian went to a garage sale looking for a barber chair but ended up purchasing 2 boxes of old photos for $45. 4 years later, he discovered that the boxes contained 65 glass plate negatives from famous photographer Ansel Adams, worth right around $200 million. The crew of this ship raised its anchor, only to realize it was hooked on an unexploded torpedo. After Martin Luther King was killed in 1968, his funeral was held at Morehouse College in Atlanta. A small group of current students were chosen to be ushers at his funeral, and one of them was Samuel L. Jackson. Violet Jessop was a ship nurse in the early 1900s who couldn't seem to avoid disaster. She was on the Titanic when it sank, the Britannic when it was struck by a torpedo, and the Olympic when it collided with another ship. Violet managed to survive all 3. Most siblings born on the same day but on different years is 5. Catherine, Carol, Charles, Claudia, and Cecilia Cummins were all born on February 20th. The odds of this happening are about 17 billion to 1. In 2007, the Coble family lost their 2 girls and 1 boy in a horrific car crash. But a year later, the mother gave birth to triplets, 2 girls and 1 boy. Mark Twain was born in 1835, shortly after Halley's Comet was passing by Earth. In 1909, he would later say, "I came in with Halley's Comet and I expect to go out with it." He died on the exact day the comet appeared in 1910. In 1957, a woman attending an MLB game was hit with a foul ball that broke her nose. The game was briefly paused, then resumed once the woman was put on a stretcher. But as they carried her away, the next pitch was fouled off and hit the same woman, breaking a bone in her knee. When a Filipino fisherman's anchor got stuck on a rock, he decided to take it home with him as a good luck charm. He kept it under his bed for 10 years until his house burned down in a fire. He soon found out that it was actually the largest pearl ever found, valued at right around $100 million. This man painted a girl inspired by his imagination, and when he met someone who looked exactly like her, he married her. In July of this year, marine biologists spotted a real-life yellow sponge and pink sea star near a mountain in the Atlantic. A Brazilian police officer was saved when the Nokia in his back pocket stopped a bullet that was fired at him. In 1915, a distraught woman who was late to her sister's funeral demanded to see her one last time. So the coffin was raised out of the ground, and when it was opened, the dead woman sat up and smiled. She went on to live for another 47 years. In 2004, a man was hiking in the Andes Mountains when he found a wallet in the area where a plane crashed in 1972. Upon realizing it belonged to one of the 16 survivors, he returned it to him 32 years later. On January 8, 1942, Stephen Hawking was born on the 300th anniversary of Galileo's death. 76 years later, he died on Pi Day, which also happened to be Einstein's 139th birthday. A New York City pigeon pooped this portrait of itself on a leaf. Cristiano Ronaldo is 869 days older than Lionel Messi. Cristiano Ronaldo Jr. is also 869 days older than Thiago Messi. In 1977, a Spanish woman decided not to reboard her flight and instead stayed at the layover location even though this was against the rules. She ended up being the sole survivor of a collision that killed 583 people, the deadliest crash in aviation history. 10-year-old Tilly Smith saved her family and 100 other tourists from the 2004 Asian tsunami that killed over 200,000 people. She was able to recognize the early signs of tsunamis that she learned in geography class just 2 weeks prior. Anne Hathaway's husband bears a strong resemblance to William Shakespeare. Not to mention the name of Shakespeare's wife was Anne Hathaway. Roy Sullivan holds a record that will hopefully never be broken. He was struck by lightning not once, not twice, but 7 times. Bruce Lee once played an actor who was killed by a prop gun. Years later, his son died in real life the exact same way. When there was a drought in Bhopal, India, local priests married 2 frogs to please the gods of rain. Sadly, the frogs had to be divorced 2 months later due to the persistent rainfall that destroyed over 9,000 homes. A woman snorkeling near Australia noticed this fish was wearing a gold wedding ring. She says she tried to catch it, but it swam away too quickly. A woman from Michigan gave birth on 8808, 9909, and 101010. The odds of this happening were 50 million to 1. A man was photographing a plane crossing over a rainbow when it was struck by lightning at the exact same time. This little girl was born with the exact same white patch of hair as her mother. In 2009, a man was kidnapped in Mexico immediately after giving a lecture on how not to be kidnapped in Mexico. In 1970, a dead sperm whale was blown up with dynamite and chunks of its flesh were launched up to 700 feet away. One of the pieces destroyed a brand new car that was purchased during a promotion called Get a Whale of a Deal. In August of 2000, the band Dream Theater recorded a live studio album called Live Scenes from New York. The album cover art features the skyline of New York City on fire, and the craziest part is that it was released on September 11, 2001. This 3,000-year-old sculpture of an Egyptian princess looks exactly like Michael Jackson. After a family lost their dog during Hurricane Sandy, they decided to give up and find a new one 2 years later. So they went to the local shelter, and the first animal the counselor showed them was their missing dog. This faulty 5 Below sign still says the same thing. In 1974, a mother dying from cancer gave a special ring to her son, but he lost it in a river 2 weeks later. After 39 years passed, a diver found the ring underwater and returned it to the man, who was in the hospital dying from cancer. An Australian man named Bill Morgan was once declared dead for 14 minutes but somehow survived. To celebrate his survival, he bought some scratch-offs and won a car. When the news asked him to reenact the moment, he bought another scratch-off for the cameras and won a $250K jackpot. This person was saved from a $300 fine thanks to this absolute bro of a bird blocking their license plate from the camera. This same injured whale was photographed 35 years apart off the coast of Mexico. A man named Walter Summerford was struck by lightning 3 times throughout his life. After his death, his grave was also struck. In 2018, a woman from Canada was shot in the chest from point blank. But miraculously, her breast implant deflected the bullet and her only injury was a fractured rib. In 1952, Wernher von Braun wrote a book called Project Mars about the first manned expedition to the Red Planet. The book imagined that human colonists on Mars would be led by a person named Elon. In 2013, a woman in Florida was waiting to buy Powerball tickets when she let an elderly lady go ahead of her in line. The 84-year-old lady ended up winning the $590 million jackpot. A Swedish woman lost her wedding ring in her garden until she found it 16 years later growing on a carrot. In 2001, the Taliban used dynamite to demolish this 4th century Buddha statue that was carved in Afghanistan. While initially devastating, it was found that the explosions had revealed 50 caves that were untouched for 1600 years. Inside the caves, researchers uncovered some ancient Buddhist relics, including the oldest oil paintings in the world. In 1913, a 12-year-old black girl named Sarah Rector was given land deemed unsuitable for farming. But it turned out to be rich with oil, and she became a millionaire overnight. She was known as the richest colored girl in the world, and Oklahoma legislation even made an effort to have her legally declared white. These natural ice formations in Antarctica look like structures built by the ancient Romans. An electric company in Arkansas was forced to post this PSA after someone took out a power line with an unbelievable arrow shot. Mario Puzo, the author of the Godfather books who also adapted them to film, had no idea what he was doing since he'd never written a script before. After winning 2 Oscars, he decided to buy a book on screenwriting to learn how to improve. In the very first chapter, it said to study the first Godfather film. In 1991, retired truck driver Terry Horton found a painting at a California thrift shop that she purchased for $5. She thought it was hideous and planned on throwing darts at it until one of her friends suggested getting it checked out. It ended up being a priceless painting by Jackson Pollock worth right around $50 million. In 2015, a man swimming near Huntington Beach, California was suddenly struck in the back by a great white. After making it ashore and going to the hospital, doctors assured him that he'd be fine. But upon seeing his x-rays, they realized he had a cancerous tumor that they were just barely able to remove in time. In 1923, a young jockey named Frank Hayes suffered a heart attack and suddenly died in the middle of a horse race. But his body remained on the saddle throughout the race, and his horse Sweet Kiss crossed the finish line first. This was the first time that Hayes had ever won a race, and the last. While filming the final scene of the movie Kingpin, where Bill Murray's character bowls 3 strikes in a row, Bill Murray actually did bowl 3 strikes in a row. His celebration along with the crowd's roaring applause were both genuine reactions. An adopted man from Michigan had been searching for his birth mother for 4 years before finding out she'd been working at the same Lowe's as him the entire time. Founder of the Ferrari company, Enzo Ferrari, died on August 14, 1988. Just 1 month later, on October 15th, Arsenal football player Mesut Ozil was born. Someone took this pic of an albino peacock at the exact time that it flew over a regular one, making it look like its spirit was exiting its body. Famous Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg had extreme triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13. He ended up dying on Friday the 13th at the age of 76. Last year, an Argentinian farmer was walking on his property when he spotted something strange in a dried riverbed. He would soon discover the fossilized remains of 4 glyptodons, an ancient species of armadillo that was roughly the size of a modern-day smart car. This butterfly is nicknamed Anna's 88 due to the pattern on its back that resembles the number 88. Aerial photographer Robert Haas was taking photos over the Yucatan when he captured something spectacular. A bunch of flamingos were hanging out in the shape of a giant flamingo. This kid knocked down every pin except for 7, 8, 9, and 10. In 1999, skydiver Joan Murray's parachute malfunctioned, causing her to fall from 14,000 feet directly onto a mound of fire ants. But doctors think the shock of adrenaline from 200 fire ant stings kept her heart beating and saved her life. While filming for Blade Trinity, Jessica Biel was instructed to shoot an arrow directly at the camera that was more than 60 feet away. It was protected by plexiglass except for a 2x2-inch square in front of the lens, which Biel managed to hit with a direct bullseye, thus destroying the $300,000 camera. Just hours after the death of Nintendo CEO Satoru Iwata, a rainbow appeared over the Nintendo headquarters. Fans dubbed it the Rainbow Road to Heaven. In the year 1506, a 1,000-year-old statue was discovered in Rome, but it was missing an arm, so the Pope set up a contest to see who could come up with the best recreation of the missing arm. Michelangelo's version lost, but 400 years later the original arm was found and had been sculpted in the exact same position that Michelangelo designed. In 2016, Glenda Blackwell bought a $10 scratch-off ticket to prove to her gambling husband that they were a total waste of money. Fortunately, she failed to prove her point since the ticket ended up being a $1 million jackpot winner. In 2017, a group of undercover cops in Detroit who were posing as drug dealers tried to arrest another group of undercover cops who were posing as drug buyers. In 2001, Jason and Jenny Cairns Lawrence went on vacation in New York City when the World Trade Center was struck on 9/11. 4 years later, in 2005, they went on vacation in London when 4 suicide bombers attacked the London bus network, killing 52 people. Then in 2008, they were in Mumbai when once again the city was attacked by 10 terrorists who killed nearly 200 people. All 3 tragedies were the worst terrorist attacks in history for each country. And now Jason and Jenny just stay home. In 2013, a woman from Florida was waiting to buy Powerball tickets when she allowed an elderly lady to go ahead of her in line. The 84-year-old woman ended up winning the $590 million jackpot off a quick pick. In 1998, Honduras built a bridge over the Choluteca River, but the water was rerouted by Hurricane Mitch that same year. This 3,000-year-old sculpture of an Egyptian princess looks exactly like Michael Jackson. Spider-Man grew up at 20 Ingram Street in Queens, New York. The address exists in real life, and the family that lives there happens to be the Parkers. In 1995, a man named Terry Cottle ended his own life with a shotgun to the throat. His heart was then donated to Sonny Graham, who ended up marrying Terry's widow. A few years later, Sonny took his own life the exact same way as his donor, with a shotgun to the throat. In March of 2005, the Powerball had 110 second-place winners, totaling $19 million in prizes. While lottery officials suspected fraud, it turned out that the Wonton Food Company correctly predicted the winning numbers and printed them on thousands of fortune cookies. The fortune read, "All of the preparation you've done will finally pay off." In 1871, a man survived the sinking of a ship, but it left him with a horrible fear of the ocean. 41 years later, he was finally able to overcome his fear and sail again, only to die in the sinking of that new ship, the Titanic. In the 1980s, a family owned a ceramics factory in California called Oscar Ceramics. But in 1987, the factory was revealed to be an illegal crematorium. This only happened because a passerby who happened to be a Holocaust survivor recognized the smell of burning bodies from his time at Auschwitz.